Hello and welcome. A former wrestler, Kirk Douglas' powerful screen presence and talent was evident from his earliest roles. He earned his first Oscar nomination in 1949's Champion, followed by nominations for The Bad and the Beautiful, and then as Vincent van Gogh in Lust for Life, both directed by Vincente Minelli. Kirk went on to compile a wonderful movie career with films like The Gunfight at the OK Corral, Paths of Glory, The Vikings, Lonely Are the Brave, Tough Guys, and of course the epic Spartacus. In the early 1980s, he was appointed chairman of the jury at the Cannes Film Festival, a role he had some ambivalence about. At the time, he'd only recently finished his latest film, The Final Countdown, opposite Martin Sheen. The World War II drama featured one of America's most famous aircraft carriers, the Nimitz. I caught up with Kirk in the grounds of the famous Hotel du Cap, and he immediately expressed frustration about his jury role before talking about the making of The Final Countdown.
Well, I don't like the job at all because I'm used to making films. I'm accustomed to having other critics say, Kirk, that stinks, or that's pretty good, or whatever it is. But to pass judgment on other people's work, I don't like it. It's tough, because how do you say this picture should get a prize, but not that picture? So I really find it difficult, and I don't think I'll do it again.
Why did you accept the job in the first place?
Well, first of all, my wife used to work with the Cannes Film Festival even before I married her, and they asked me, and I first said, look, why don't you see if you can get someone else? And then they pressured me. I love coming to south of France. I enjoy watching movies, so I thought, well, I'll try it. But it was an interesting job. But as I said, for the reasons that I hate to pass judgment on other people's work, I don't like it for that reason.
Of course, you're still working very much as an actor, and indeed you've just finished a film on the Nimitz.
Yes. As a matter of fact, the odd thing is, I have 4 sons, and they're all in filmmaking. I think I depend more on them now than they used to depend on me. For example, my son Peter, who's now 23 years old, he came to me with this idea of a story about an aircraft carrier, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in 1980, and it's a time film that goes through a time warp, through a strange storm, and suddenly finds it's back in 1941, just before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Well, I said, look, Peter, listen to me. I've made 65 films. You can't do it. What do you mean, Pa? Why can't I do it? I said, you can't get an aircraft carrier. Of course, immediately he went to Washington, went to the Pentagon, came back, and he said, Dad, I got the USS Nimitz, which was the aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. As a matter of fact, we'll be coming back soon. We're going to be meeting it in Norfolk because we became such friends with the captain and the crew. And it was sort of shocking to us when we suddenly read after we'd made the film that it went to the Persian Gulf and that the tragic attempt to save the hostages was made from the Nimitz. But young people now play such an important part in filmmaking. That's an example. I say, Peter, you can't make the movie. He goes ahead and gets the Nimitz, and we've made the film, and it's now it's just going to be released. I think it's going to be released first in England and France, and then in the United States in July.
What's the title of it, and how soon, or how close to the actual involvement in the Iran rescue attempt was the film completed?
It was amazing. If it had been a month later, we could never have finished the film because the Nimitz would have had to leave. Matter of fact, we shot some shots while it was pickup shots while it was on its way. We shot some shots in the Mediterranean while it was on its way to the Persian Gulf. But the title of the film is The Final Countdown. In each country, especially like in France, they call it Nimitz Retour vers l'enfer, return to the devil. And it's an exciting film with Martin Sheen, James Francioses, Charles Durning, and it's quite exciting, and I'm anxious to see what happens with it. I play the part of the captain of the Nimitz, which was exciting for me because, you have no idea the power. I mean, the first time I finally, was allowed to be catapulted off that ship in a plane and make a landing. Of course, that ship that's so large, but when you're up on a plane looking down, you think, gosh, is that big enough to make a landing? Everything's out of perspective. But that's the fun of filmmaking. It's exciting that each film is another hunk of your life.
And there is another film that you've completed recently, that's Home Movies. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that's fascinating because I'd done a picture with Brian De Palma some time ago, Fury, and he was making a film with students. And he said, Kirk, would you like to help me? He said, I'd like to use professional actors, but I want to help all these students. This was at Sarah Lawrence College where he had taught for a while, he says, and I want to let them know what it is to make a film, and they developed this story. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to, So I went there and worked for about a week or so, and we developed this film, and it was fun. I enjoyed making it, and it kept getting better and better, and what turned out to be maybe something that was going to be like a home movie turned out to be a very good film, and it now has a United Artists release, and it'll be seen all over the world.
What's the story about?
Well, the story is about home movies. It's a wild story in which the idea is everyone is a star in his own life, and I play this a wonderful character, this professor of filmmaking. I always thought of him as a kind of a down-and-out actor who needed a job, and he was working at this university teaching filmmaking to these students, and then it's all these crazy things that happen. It's really fun. I mean, a good title, Home Movies, that's really suits it very well.
Which will come out first, Home Movies or Final Countdown?
Final Countdown, I think, will be the film that'll be coming out first, right. And then Home Movies. I don't know what the release pattern of it is. It varies, and it's something that I don't usually. I'm much more concerned with the actual making of a film, and don't concern myself too much with the release pattern.
And have you got another film to go into?
I'm trying to do films. I'd like to do films in other countries. As a matter of fact, I'd like to come to Australia. I'd love to make a film there. And I want to say that even though they say that as president of the jury I'm not supposed to be talking about films, there's an Australian film, Breaker Morant, that I thought was a magnificent film from every point of view. The actors, the story, the photography, the direction by Bruce Beresford. The whole film is really a tremendous film, and when I saw it I thought, I'm going down to Australia. I've been invited there many times and never been able to make it, but I think I'm going to go down there and try to make a film, because I think that I felt a power there in their film that's exciting.
Michael has been down there, of course, a
yes,
couple of times.
Yes, my son Michael has been there. He has many friends in Australia, and he's urged me to go there, but somehow one thing comes up or another. You suddenly find I did a picture with kind of a crazy science fiction picture with Farrah Fawcett. My wife claimed, she said the only reason I did the picture was because Farrah Fawcett was so beautiful, and she said you couldn't resist it. She may have a point, I don't know. But it was a fun picture to do. That's in release now, Saturn III. So now I feel like I don't want to try any directing. I don't want to produce as much. I don't mind helping. I'd like to go back to what I originally started as an actor and try to do more acting.
Barely 2 years after our interview, Kirk agreed to appear in the iconic Australian movie The Man from Snowy River, in which he played two roles, one as a wealthy rancher and the other as a tough old gold miner. Kirk was a movie superstar before the media invented the term and tacked it on to almost anyone who appeared in more than one film. He had a remarkable life and eventually passed away in Los Angeles last year at the impressive age of 103, having appeared in more than 90 films.